Hello everybody. Alright, today's topic, we're going to discuss how to do LFOs, otherwise known as low frequency oscillations. We're also going to play around with the SSG-EG effects in Sega Genesis. Let me see. Whoever wants to join in is welcome. Let's see. So, I'm probably not going to be too long, and I'm probably not going to talk a whole lot. I'm just kind of tired these days. But, I don't know, I just wanted to show a friend and everybody else some basic things about LFOs. Now, everything has a frequency. Let me switch it over to algorithm 7. Everything has a frequency in terms of a sound wave. You know, frequencies can travel faster than others or slower than others. And in a sense, it's all relative. But in another sense, pertinent to our hearing, it's relative to human hearing. Humans can hear, on average, between 16 hertz all the way to 22,000 hertz. And that's mostly for children. Normally, as you get older, that range decreases. So, perhaps I can only hear up to 17 or 18,000 hertz. Or maybe a little less, because I'm older and my eardrums get more calloused. And that's how it is with everyone. It also depends on how much nerve or hearing damage you have. But yeah, frequencies, they go from low to the extremely high. And perhaps even a bit higher. Yep. Anyway, we're going to try to see how low we can go, because we're interested in low frequency oscillations. Let me see if I can turn my desktop sound. It is all the way up. Okay. But we're pretty low. I want you to pay attention to this oscillator right here. We're so low that you can barely hear anything. You think anybody can count how many cycles per second that is? I don't think I can, but just wondering out there, because it's pretty low. Hold on. If you listen closely, it sounds kind of like a helicopter, huh? Now this is the lowest sound in terms of pitch that you can get with a Sega Genesis, at least that I'm aware of. Let's turn that feedback off to 0. Huh. That's pretty low. So imagine having the vibrato for a sound. When you have vibrato in any sound, it's basically doing this to whatever other sound you have, if that makes any sense. So if I go up to 4, you see, but if I just have 4 like this, and I add in the oscillation, so what it's doing is that it's mixing in that really low sound with this really high sound. So let's say I switch to algorithm 4 and I start doing this kind of mess. So this is actually fake vibrato using the FM. So now we're actually oscillating. We are literally using operator 1 as a low frequency oscillator for operator 2. So operator 1 is causing operator 2 to shake up and down at a very slow rate. If I didn't do that, then you would only hear operator 2. Well, let's go up to a higher frequency. So yeah, we are literally making our own custom LFO with the FM chip. So let's see here. Let me see if there are any comments. Oh yeah, Echo. Hi Gentari. What's up, Wavetable? Yeah, you can do Echo with SSG. That's something I've done for a while. It's a really good effect. You know, you can get like the single channel delays and things like that. And I'll be going into a little bit about that. But anyway, yeah, you can do some basic like oscillations and stuff. Okay, but typically this is not how you do it in chip music in order to get vibrato and things like that. So like, what do we normally do? Well, let me set these, just the 2 to regular. I don't like that sound too much. It's too sharp to the ears. Alrighty. So we're going to focus on Sega Genesis LFOs. And up here at the very top, you'll see FMS and AMS. FMS is Amplitude Modulation. So how would that sound? And how do we activate that? Well, the amplitude oscillator is basically where the sound, the actual volume of the sound goes up and down, over and over again repeatedly at different rates. So in order to activate that for these 2 operators, you have to click on this button right here, AM, in order for it to be active in both. And that would get our sound to, well, let's just give it a listen. You hear how there's a little warble to it? Let's listen to it plain. And let's go to setting 1. Now let's go to setting 2, and you'll hear more of a warble. You see the volume is fading in and out over and over again at a certain rate. So AMS, this control lever controls how deep, how high and how low the volume will go, but it does not control the speed, and we'll get into speed control later. See, it's like wow 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 wow. So that's about 2 hertz. That the speed, the wow 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 wow, it's about 2 hertz. So it goes up and down 2 complete cycles a second, approximately. So it's a low frequency oscillation. If we were to turn the speed of that wow 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 wow, if we turn it up really high, it would start to make a new sound, a new oscillation, and it would be kind of like the same principle as FM sound. Now let me see here. The FMS has to do with the pitch control. So this is more like the built-in vibrato of Sega Genesis, which is different. It's different than the 4XX command right here. You see, if I play it like this, it's a straight sound, but let's say I play it at 6/7 like that. You hear that wow 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 like that, or maybe 1F. So this is a software-based LFO right here, what you're seeing. That's a very low frequency to make that pitch go up and down very slowly. So that's less than 1 hertz. You know, that's like sub hertz, you know, or F1. Maybe 5F. So it's like very fast, like wow, 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 back and forth. So that's a type of LFO. That's a software-based command. But if we want to do a hardware-based LFO, we use the FMS for the instrument. And it's a different kind of vibrato. You'll just have to play around with it and hear it. And you see 7 is the highest setting, and you know, it just adds kind of this warbly, vibrato-y, detuned, I don't know, kind of this 80s style off-kilter effect to your sound. So for all you vaporwave heads out there, this might be a good thing to use, and we can of course combine the 2 effects. So you can get things like that. What was I going to show next? Oh, also with the AMS. So say like you have this. So what you can do is you can choose to not have one of these operators do the AM. So say I take it off of the modulating operator. So what it's doing is that it's making this TL value go up and down, back and forth. It would be the same thing as if I were to do this. Okay, so that certainly was not as smooth. The amplitude modulator controls the amplitude of your sound differently than the TL value. They both kind of do the same thing, but the amplitude modulation does it more smoothly. It's more of an analog function, whereas the TL value is a digital function. And I don't know how that all works internally, but I kind of like a smoother transition between the tremolo effect of the volume, personally. So anyway, let me check my comments real quick. Oh yeah, AMS is great. You know, there's a lot of cool things you can do. You get some really good things with like vibraphones, a more realistic effect. So let's say I did AMS only with operator 1, or maybe only operator 2. So let's see what we get. And now let's try it with operator 1. And see, it's going to be a different effect because you're changing which operator is going in and out. And you can mix and match those variations with your more complex sounds. So the sound is going to be altered depending on where you have the AMs selected or deselected, you see. So there's all kinds of variations you can do now. Now let's just go back to algorithm 4, turn these other two puppies down. We don't want them, get out of our lives. Okay, got it. Okay, so we just go back to like a basic sound, right? Okay, basic electro keyboard sound. Great. So what we can do now is, let's say we want to change the speed, the actual speed of how fast these vibrato and these AM SFX go. Because that's, well, you know, I admit they're rather slow. It's like, wow, 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 wow. What if we want them faster? Well, this is why we have the 10 command, if I'm not mistaken. And you have to activate it using 1 first. And then you have to select a value. Like, let's select 5. And let's see how this G note sounds. Okay, you hear how it sounds faster? But if I go down to 1, 1, it sounds like this. It's like wah 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 wah. And then 1 0. So 1 0 is our default. That's our default speed for our LFO control. And when you change it to 1 1, the speed of both FMS and AMS is increased at the same rate. So the speed of both these LFOs cannot be separate from each other, if that makes sense. It's a global change. And this effect will affect the speed of these LFOs in every instrument and every channel. So this is what you call a global effect. It affects everything. It affects the speed of everything. So it's very limited in some aspects. So whoever makes music with the LFO, you just need to be aware of that. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Hey Toby Comey, what's up, little buddy? Alrighty, we're having a party tonight. That's what I call a party. So you can go all the way up to, I believe 1.7 is the highest. It sounds a little gritty, huh? How about 1.8? So yeah, basically there is no change. So 1.7 is the highest. So if you start at 1.0, which is the lowest, and go to 1.7, that's the highest, you have 8 different speed settings for your LFO, if that makes any sense. You know. Did you hear how it sounds a little gritty, like you know, there's a little gurgle to it, right? Because it's going so fast. Anyway, that's how the LFOs work. You know, and there's different kinds of effects and tricks, like that gurgly effect right there. Like, that sounds great for like a French horn, you know, to have that little bit of grit and a French horn sound, you know. And these LFO settings within the instrument, you can't really change them mid instrument. You can't use an effect to change those. It's kind of stuck there. So to change this, you would have to duplicate the instrument, and then you would have to make a new setting of how big or great that is, you know. So that's basically as fast as your vibrato is going to get. Your LFO is going to get for your hardware. So I hope that makes sense. Let me see. I never used LFO for any of my FM tracks. Yes, you will have to try it out. I've used it in quite a few of my cover of 3D Galax. I'll have to give that a listen to sometime. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. But basically, yeah, we're just causing the pitch of the note to go up and down really fast. Well, it's not really fast, it's really low compared to what an audible sound actually is. If it got fast enough, it would make its own sound. It would make a brand new oscillation, which brings us to another little trick, another special little function that I like to refer to as the SSG-EG, because it in fact is called the Ssg-EG. So let's see. What I'm going to do is take it all the way to algorithm 7, and I'm going to lower all the TL values except for operator 1. So basically what you're going to hear is a sinusoidal wave, you know, which is your most basic sound wave. You know, on the TV, whenever they bleep out a cuss word, it's a basic sinusoidal wave at 440 hertz, which is A in the 4th octave. So it sounds like, okay. Anyway, sorry, but you can find it on my second channel, Mark. Okay, well, I'll have to look that up. Okay. All right, but we're not going to do any cussing here with Sega. You know, it's a bit crude there. Alrighty. So let's see here. What I want to do, I want to try an SSG command. Now, how do we do that? Well, there's a couple of ways to maneuver this. So I'm just gonna make like a pling sound, like a fading sound. Okay, that's too much. So it has this kind of fading decay. You know, the sharpest attack rate and the decay slowly fades down at about half rate, maximum envelope potential. Well, whatever. Now watch what happens when we add the SSG-EG, which also ties in with the RS, which is the rate scale. So these two are interconnected. It's an envelope function. So I'm holding down a single button, and it's making this pling sound. It sounds almost like I left a 2016 car door open with the key still in the ignition. That's probably where they get the sounds. They just use a Sega Genesis to make all their sounds for their cars. That's, I should go into a new business. I missed my calling in life. Okay, well, if you increase the rate scale, then the rate of that sound will be faster. It's at double rate, and so forth and so forth. And now it's really fast and gritty, right? Okay. Okay, well that's all well and fine. You can also do it by changing your decay rate. Oh, now what's going on there? That sounds almost like a little bit of primitive speech synthesis. And in fact, you can use the SSG effect to get crude speech out of any Sega Genesis channel. To get this kind of robotic, crude speech. And this is how you do it. This is the secret. Now, with SSG, there's different variations of the SSG envelope. And how do they look? Well, let me pull them up on YouTube if I can, because there are charts for those. This is for Neo Geo, though. We don't want none of that, do we? Actually, half of the Deflemask community probably does. Anyway, where do we go for a good image of it? I don't know. You just can't rely on anything on the internet, can you? Maybe the... surely they should have it here. But I want to show you what the actual envelopes of the SSG looks like. It's an oscillation. It's the shape of how the sound repeats itself in the envelope. It's SSG-EG, SSG Envelope Generator is what it is, right? So let's look here. They actually have operator core. Here we go. These are the envelope shapes. So this is what you're going to be hearing. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 0, 1, 2, 3. So once you get to number 4, it'll be the reverse of all the ones you just saw up here. It'll be like the opposite waves. Except for this one, that's kind of weird. Huh. I guess it's supposed to be the reverse of that because there's no sharp attack on this one, but there is on this one, so it kind of is basically the same thing. But this is like bing, 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 like that, and the next one's going to be beam. Here, I'll show you. So I'm on 0 right now, right? And the next one's going to be beam. And that's all you're ever going to hear. And then the sharper you have it, the quicker that bing is going to be. It's so quick, it's just a click. Can you hear the click? Okay. But if I play it in succession, so that means if I played this click at the fastest speed, we'll get an oscillation of a 60 Hz note, which is a pulse wave of some kind. It's not going to be a perfect square wave, but it's going to be a very short width pulse wave of 60 Hz, which is a low frequency as well. So that's another thing. We're getting LFOs all over the place. We don't know what to do with ourselves. Whoa. Okay. But that's the short pling, okay? Alright. And then the higher up we have the decay. The longer it's going to be before it shorts out. And then I change my rate scale to the extreme rate, which also makes it shorter as well, according to its own set of variables. So envelope and decay is interrelated with SSG and rate scale right here. So these are all interrelated, and they all work together. So the next sound, what's it gonna be? So if I go here, the next sound is gonna have a sharp attack to start off with, and then it's gonna repeat in this triangular fashion up and down. So it's gonna be a little different. Let's see how that is. You see the sound came back, just like I said it would, because I looked at the chart. And then I'll make it go faster when I increase or decrease the decay. Now doesn't that sound like what we were doing with our AMS earlier? So what I'm saying here about the SSG-EG, this is another LFO. And this is an LFO that can work independently on its own for every single operator, which is really kind of special. So let's say you wanted to get that AMS warbly effect, you know, but you didn't want it to be global. Well, you could do a similar thing with your SSG effect and repeat that in every oscillator to be a different speed. So I'm just saying that's another trick that you can use to imitate this tremolo or this amplitude modulation effect up here. And of course your speech synthesis as well. Sounds like a bunch of weird telephone sounds. Anyway, anybody want to order out for pizza? Mr. Toby Comey, that's probably because that chart is exactly like the AYYM PSG chip, because the Sega Genesis, it was going to have the same kind of SSG, or one of the earlier FM chips where the Sega Genesis chip came from had the same SSG chip that's in the AY ones, if that makes sense. And they used this SSG-EG controller. But when they made the Sega Genesis 2612 chip, they stripped out the SSG sound, but they left the SSG-EG controller, which you can now use it for the FM. So actually, yes, it is the same exact chart for the envelopes on the AYYM PSG chips. Yep. Okay. Yes, it is very cool. Oh, I'll show you some uses for the SSG wavetable guy. Oh, cars might. So what? So that's what every number. Yep. Hey, Richard. What's up, buddy? This video makes me want to abuse my Sega Genesis. Yeah. A little Genesis abuse. You gotta do just the right amount of abuse, though. Okay, and then let's go down our charts, of course. So this is kind of like, it'll plink off and then pick back up indefinitely on number 3. You hear that little subtle click? Watch this. It's pretty annoying, and I don't really like that envelope. And I don't really know why they have it. I guess it does make, you know, kind of a little clicky intro. I don't know. And then the next set is for the opposite. Now we're going to go the opposite direction for those oscillations. So that's always fun. And then the next one, it just kind of fades in and then carries on. Very odd, huh? I mean, we end up turning things completely backwards. We're using the decay as a form of attack. So, anyway, weird stuff, huh? then number 6. So if you want to get your really spaced out ambient music or whatever, these are good ones to use. Some of these things you can easily do with the envelope generator without the SSG. But then other things like this, I mean, come on. I mean, who wouldn't love that, right? I mean, really. And then, you can get, when you increase that rate up high enough, you start to get this kind of saw wave sound or these other sound waves, because what you're doing is that you're making an FM sound with a single operator using the SSG-EG, because you make that LFO so high that it actually becomes an audible frequency. Of course, there's no real tuning mechanism when you're using this method, so it's going to be kind of detuned and weird, and it'll be completely different pitch than you expect on some notes as you descend. But it's still kind of cool. You can still get cool effects with it, and vocal, like fake computer speech and things of that nature. Majikuru. That's how it reminds me of the bowed instrument. Yeah. There's all kinds of cool things. Let me catch up on it. Morse code, yeah. I recall one of your instruments is in Morse code. Yeah. Guess I think I'm gonna use this. The ice rain. Yep. You can definitely do things like that. Yeah, an ice rain instrument. Yep. An instrument in the ice rain. Oh, there's all kinds of things you can do. The bowed instrument. Now there's more tricks up our sleeves, guys. First of all, I'll show you that the attack decay method is not the only method of that. We can not even touch the decay, and we can instead use the second decay rate that comes after the sustain. Observe. Alright. Anyway. So yeah, you can choose to raise the sustain all the way and use only the second decay rate. Alright, back to a nice pleasant little thing here. What's this rate scale all about? I mean, what are we really talking about? Well, it kind of imitates the decay effect of a real piano. So on your lower notes, the sound, when you take your finger off of that sound, it'll kind of carry on for a little while. When you plink on the higher notes, the sound will decay faster because it's a much tighter pull of the string. You know, and it just kind of works on the principle of a realistic piano. That's back in the day when Yamaha tried to make electronic piano substitutes with FM synthesis and so forth. This was useful for that kind of thing, you know, to give more of a realistic or familiar touch to your epic 80s slow pop performances by the likes of Phil Collins. Anyway, moving on. So hold up a sec. Okay, see how this high note is just like a little pling and the rate scale set to 3? But let's say I go all the way down. You see how that low note seems to last twice as long as that little pling at the high note? So that's what that rate scale is doing. And you can lower it a little to make it more subtle. But that's essentially what you're doing there. And then that affects your SSG-EG. You know, it kind of bumps that decay rate up a whole nother level and so forth. I mean, you play around with it, use your ears, and you'll learn what it really does. Okay. So what else can we do with SSG-EG? Well, we can go down to let's go to algorithm 4, and we're going to do something that we're going to make a sound that kind of echoes out. You know, it kind of fades out. All right. So we're going to make just a basic 2-op sound of some kind, like maybe a little electric piano sound, right? Alright, so we got our electric piano sound, right? So what if we want that sound to just kind of fade out into nothingness, you know? Or what if we wanted that sound, that actual sound to kind of repeat and then drop off into nothingness, you know? How would we do that? Well, we can use the SSG-EG for that, my friends. Okay. Now see how that sound is kind of echoing off into the distance? It's pretty, huh? So how did I achieve that? Well, operator 2, so we turn that down. Operator 2 is your basic operator. That's your sine wave. So I make that basic sine wave fade off. So that sine wave is going to fade off no matter what we do. So then we bring it to be that piano sound. And both sounds are going to fade, even though the bass sound fades slower than the than operator 1, right? Well, now we add the SSG effect, and it makes that little repeat sound with that operator setting. But when the operator setting goes all the way down in amplitude in that function, then it'll give you the illusion that you're not really hearing this sound anymore at all. And you don't really hear much of the sound until this comes back up in amplitude. But as it does that, this is going to fade off proportionally to operator 2. Because operator 2, you can't hear anything of operator 1 unless operator 2 has a sound. So when that fades, then both operators stop. I don't know. It gets confusing to explain it. Just know that this is what it does. Now here's another thing. As you play a lower note, the SSG effect is going to be slower. And it's going to be slower in proportion to each lower note you go, or higher to each higher note. Observe. The same principle can apply to your multipliers as well. Or maybe not. Alrighty. Let's see what we got here. Okay. So what do you think, guys? You like what you're hearing so far? Looks like I might have a little question here. An octave limit too. Alrighty. So yeah, what we can essentially do is we can actually double this instrument, remember, like we did before, and give it that little chorus effect, right? So we're basically duplicating operators 1 and 2 into operator 3 and 4. We're going to go up to 26, about 13, right? And then 4, 2, 12, okay. And then we're going to match 3 with 1. I think that's about right? Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a detune effect. Okay. Check this out. So this chorus delay echo sound you hear is all being produced with a single instrument using 4 operators, and that's it. You want to know what's even cooler though? Is that you can give it more of like a, even more of a little reverb edge by adjusting this decay rate of operator 3 now. So not only do you have a chorus effect and a delay effect, but you also have a slight reverb delay effect, all from a single instrument, all thanks to SSG-EG and the double 2-op feature of Algorithm 4 for Sega Genesis. And this is a good way to get some really sweet sounds, to basically go beyond what you generally think is possible. And then you can get the more crazy things, like what happens when we apply this to algorithm 0, where every single operator feeds into the next, you know. And you can get all kinds of crazy morphings. So yeah, there's all kinds of possibilities and potentials here. Wow, 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 wow. Yep. Okay. Well, I think that about covers a lot of what you can really do with LFOs and other kinds of fun things. You know? Anything else, guys? No. Alrighty. I'm gonna have to wrap it up and say goodnight and get some sleep. It's getting pretty late. Alright, good night, fellas. Thanks for listening in to MarkBot Live.